Hello fans and friends, welcome to another video. My name's Keir Smith. For today's video, I'd like to give some thanks and praise to my fellow YouTubers who have provided me with tons of great videos and content over this last year. I've watched all of these guys a lot and it's been hugely entertaining, enjoyable, informative and time very well spent. I'm a big fan of the Beatles and their solo years, and all of these channels that I'm about to shine a light on share my love for the Fab Four. Some purely dedicate their channels to that, and others branch out and discuss other artists too. Either way, I love them all. So with that said, here's 6 of my favourite YouTube channels in no particular order, and there'll also be some honourable mentions at the end. But I'd like to start with John Heaton, whose channel was the first that I found where I watched hours and hours of videos. Because he's got loads and loads of Beatles and solo related content on his channel, and it felt like a real treasure trove when I found it. And he also covers a lot of other bands and artists that I love, like Pink Floyd, ELO, Fleetwood Mac, Bob Dylan. He's also met Paul McCartney and Christine McVie and Mick Fleetwood. On his channel you can find album reviews, topical discussions, top 10, top 20 lists, in some cases top 30 and top 40 lists. And he's very knowledgeable and I've learned plenty from him, and he's always calm, considered and thoughtful in his delivery. And he was also an early inspiration for me when I first thought about starting my own channel. I love John Heaton. Two Legs, a solo Paul McCartney podcast. What a treat. All Paul, all the time. Tom Hunyadi and Andy Nichols run a great channel, and I first found them when they were doing their Ranking the Tracks series, where they cover all of the main studio albums by Paul McCartney and Wings. They'll discuss anything to do with Paul McCartney. They do live chats, they've had some great interviews with people who have worked with Paul McCartney, which is always very insightful. And these guys were also an early inspiration for me because I'm always highlighting Paul's post-Beatles career to anyone who'll listen. And knowing that these guys were out there doing it gave me more confidence to do it. Great channel. Ken Michaels Radio. Ken is a fountain of knowledge where the Beatles are concerned, and he's also very keen to point out their post-Beatles careers too. And interestingly, he cites Living in the Material World as his favourite George Harrison album and Mind Games as his favourite John Lennon album. Ken has been on the radio for years and years with various shows, and he's even interviewed Ringo. And his YouTube channel is full of great interviews with a wide assortment of guests. Authors, musicians, friends, and general Beatles aficionados are all thoughtfully questioned. And it's always fascinating to a Beatles junkie like me. I've spent many a happy hour with Ken. And Sea of Tranquility, Pete Pardo, he's a busy guy. To quote him, we're on YouTube all the damn time. And he is too. The channel has nearly 3,500 videos to enjoy. Album reviews, top 10 lists, album rankings, panel shows, you name it, it's all here. And I think Pete's a big classic rock, prog rock and heavy metal fan at heart. He does a panel show on Tuesdays called In the Prog Seat, which I really enjoy. And I also got into 70s rockers UFO and prog band Gentle Giant through watching his channel. So he's influenced my music taste, and if I continue watching his channel, and I'm sure I will, then I think curiosity may get the better of me. And I'll end up testing the water with some of these heavy and thrash metal bands that he likes so much, but I'm resisting for now. Love Sea of Tranquility. Barry at Classic Album Review, the most eloquent YouTuber out there. His musings are always of great interest to me. I literally watch every video as it comes out, and he's a big classic rock and prog fan. The Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Pink Floyd, Genesis, Rush, Yes, Marillion. So he's always talking about the bands and artists that I love, whether it's a top 10 list, album rankings, or just a general discussion. And recently he's done some great interviews with Steve Hackett from Genesis and Steve Howe from Yes. And his line of questioning is excellent, and he purposely explores the details that fans want to know rather than asking the questions that you'd expect. I love this channel. He's a top man, is Barry. And last but definitely not least is Beatley Tone's Beatles channel. And Tone is a really amiable and likeable fellow with a good sense of humour. And he runs a great channel where it's all Beatles and solo stuff. And he tells great stories about his experiences of growing up as a Beatles fan. He was at George Harrison's last ever gig and he's met Paul twice. And he's just done an unboxing video of all of the 7-inch singles contained in that wonderful new box set by Paul McCartney. And you can watch videos of all of the aforementioned and much more. And I've left a few comments for him now, telling him how envious I am of him. And he's done just over 100 videos now. I think I've watched about half of them, and I'll no doubt watch the other half in the coming months. Love your work, Tone. So they were my 6 favourite YouTubers, but there's plenty of other great content out there. So here's some honourable mentions. I like JT Curtis' channel. He's currently 3/4 of the way through his Pink Floyd album review series. That's been great. Rick Beato, so knowledgeable about all things music, and he does a great series called What Makes This Song Great. And he's also done some really good interviews. I particularly enjoyed the one he did with Sting. And Michael Noland, The Bottom Line. I've really enjoyed his videos of late, and he generally covers the classic rock era, which I'm all for. Professor of Rock, he tells great in-depth stories about the songs we all know and love. And most recently, Sam St. John, who I found from watching the Matthew Street channel. And Sam St. John has just done the unenviable task of ranking his top 100 favourite albums. And from watching his channel, he's quietly influencing me to top up my Van Morrison collection. And he's also quietly influenced me into buying albums by Fountains of Wayne, who I'd heard of, and the Avett Brothers, who I'd never heard of. So a big thanks to all the guys I've mentioned. Keep up the great work, and I look forward to your future content. And I'm sure there's more great YouTubers out there who I haven't mentioned, so please let me know in the comments section below of anyone who I've missed that you think I should be tuning into. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everybody who has watched my videos, and to those who have subscribed to my channel. Thank you so much, I really appreciate it. And I'd like to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas. Thanks as always for watching. See you next time.